Hey guys, it's Laptop Laura, and this is Copy That Pops. Writing tips and psychology hacks applied to online biz success.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Copy That Pops. Today's episode is a quick copy tip for you so we can really apply some psychology in a fast and tangible way. I used to teach psychology at the high school and community college level, and I definitely miss it. So doing these types of episodes helps me to keep my knowledge fresh and to think of clever ways to apply it for online biz success together. So the term that I want to share with you today is a cognitive bias, or a bias in the way that we think, called confirmation bias. And I actually talk about this all the time, day to day, especially when referring to how I argue with my dad about political issues. But I realized that I haven't yet talked about it on the podcast explicitly and applied it to writing. So let's do that today. What is confirmation bias? Well, it's a phenomenon where we, as decision makers, have been shown in studies, it's proven, to actively seek out and assign more weight to evidence that confirms our hypothesis and ignore or undervalue evidence that could disconfirm our hypothesis or our beliefs. So basically, confirmation bias is when we look for evidence to reinforce what we already believe. So how can we apply that to improving our writing? I broke it down into 3 quick steps. So because we tend to look for evidence to support what we already believe, a tactic you could employ in your writing, in emails or landing pages or blogs or long social media posts, for example, could be to do the following. Number 1, start off with a statistic or a quote from a reputable source that supports what you'll be talking about or selling. And this is because people love stats, we love numbers, we love quotes. They just feel accurate, intelligent, and legit. And they're also often short sound bites that are easy to repeat. So basically, by this step number 1, starting off with a stat or a quote, we're trying to establish those beliefs right away. We're trying to kind of implant a seed of a belief for somebody that we can then give more evidence to reconfirm that. So step number 2 is then to expand on your topic and give examples or case studies that are reinforcing the statistic or the quote. So basically, we're helping along this confirmation bias by giving them evidence that's weighted more toward reconfirming what we share with them in number 1. And then step number 3 is to conclude with a call to action that makes sense now that someone has 1, formed a belief, and 2, been given stories and examples and evidence that reinforce that belief. It will be a no-brainer for them. So how could this look with a real example? Well, I thought about how to apply it to my own business just because it's the most salient for me. And if you know what I'm all about, the main part of my business, at least right now, is around helping entrepreneurs to use books as a leverage and ROI tool for their businesses. So I may follow the 3 steps like this. Number 1, I searched out a quote from an article and I found something in Business Insider. And it reads, quote, authors consistently report the first part of their post-publishing whirlwind is the drastic increase in one's exposure and the new opportunities that come along with it, end quote. And one interviewee in this Business Insider article also said, quote, an entrepreneur's book is the best business card you could have, unquote. And I'll put the source in the show notes if you want to see. So that's my step number 1. I'm starting right away with something that's going to implant a belief for them. Step number 2 is now I would explain more on this and talk about case studies from myself or from my clients to reinforce that belief we're establishing in step number 1. So for example, Valerie Morris just went live with her book, which is called We're All Ears, in February of 2019. She hit number 1 in a bunch of categories, by the way. And she was actually offered a speaking gig for later in the year out of the blue from someone who saw that she had a book coming out. So I would talk more about Valerie and have it be evidence and proof that if you put a book out there, new opportunities that you never could have predicted will just come right at you. Another example is Saba Ali, one of my favorite case studies. She's a good friend of mine too. And she used her book as a calling card to cold pitch herself onto live TV 4 times. And she's now preparing to do her second TED Talk as well. Now, depending how long the piece of writing is, I might go into more examples and throw a male example in there too to really even it out. But 2 examples are a great start. And then into step 3 is where I would share a call to action that is all about reaffirming the quote and the evidence that I shared to confirm it. So I may write something like this. An entrepreneur's book really is the best business card you could ever have, and it's even better than that. The increase in exposure and opportunities is well worth the effort. It's now your turn to get these incredible benefits, just like Valerie and Saba and all my other clients have. Go to copythatpops.com/Facebook to get started today with our free Facebook community. So there you have it in 3 quick steps to start playing on confirmation bias in improving your writing. But as a bonus, I wanted to also talk about confirmation bias as applied to imposter syndrome. So let's take this one step further today and talk about how the concept of confirmation bias can be applied to combating or, in the negative end, falling deeper into imposter syndrome. I myself am not immune to feeling not expert enough, scared to put myself out there, or, well, it's just not perfect enough yet. Let me work on it for the next year and a half. All of these are signs that the imposter syndrome monster has a hold of me. And I think it's human nature. So unless you're a complete narcissist or sociopath, you likely do or have had battles with the old ISM, imposter syndrome monster. So see it as a validation point that you are normal and healthy, not that you are wrong, bad, or weak. But recognizing his evil grasp is the first step to not letting him pull us down into a spiral of playing small, underachieving, and getting slowed down by negative comments or negative thoughts in our own heads. So how can confirmation bias play into this? Well, remember we tend to look for and focus on evidence that reinforces what we already believe. So if you believe that 1, most people are good and decent and mean well, and 2, you know your stuff, and you are truly just trying to help people the best that you can. Now, let's say you get a troll writing a mean comment on your YouTube video. If you have those beliefs already that we just mentioned, you may think this about the troll's comment. Wow, that troll must be really having some pain in his life. I feel empathy for him, but I'm not going to let his negativity hit me personally. I'm just doing my thing and helping as many people as I can. Next, let's keep going. But by contrast, let's say instead that your beliefs are as follows. 1, most people are selfish and they don't really like me. 2, I'm not good enough to be seen as a thought leader in my business space. Now, if you get that same troll writing that same mean comment on your YouTube video, you may think this instead. See, this proves it. I suck. I'm not good enough and everyone knows it. How stupid of me to think that people would like and accept me. Maybe I should just shut myself off, or at least let me think about this and weigh me down for the next 6 or 12 months. So the exact same thing can happen to different people, but depending on what your belief is that you already hold about yourself and others, your interpretation and reaction will be completely different. So if you want my advice based on psychology, I say to recognize that our natural human tendency is to seek out and remember evidence that supports what we already believe. So use it to our advantage. Make sure that confirmation bias works in your favor to help your own business grow and to help you make more of an impact with other people too. You cannot help others by letting the imposter syndrome monster and confirmation bias work against you. I hope that this has been a great, quick tip applying psychology to improving your writing and even your brain a little bit too, or your brainolator, as I used to call it in math when I taught math too. I was like a big nerd. Anyway, I'll wrap that up for today and look forward to speaking with you again soon when we'll find more ways to write copy that pops. Thanks so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find more at copythatpops.com, and I'm at Laptop Laura on all the socials.
Sometimes